Hi, everybody. Welcome to our final session of FM Tech Week 2025. I'm Ed Buckley, and on behalf of the information technology community of IFMA, I want to thank you and welcome you to this first rollout, this unique virtual symposium of technology and access to some of the brightest minds in our industry, taking us through how technology is impacting our industry today and how we can use it going tomorrow. This is now. I'd like to transition over to our final presentation and welcome Stacey. Stacey is the president of Shepherd Global Strategies LLC, a consulting firm that helps corporations and public sector entities tackle disruptive issues such as cyber physical security, all hazard resilience, technology optimization, and intelligent asset management. Their aim is to foster growth, sustainability, and mission continuity in a rapidly changing world. As you're going to hear, Stacey is passionate about raising awareness for global facility managers on the cyber vulnerabilities associated with AI and connected infrastructure, and give us some answers and some ways forward to actually address those. She's an advocate for workforce development to meet the evolving demands of technology in the workplace, and an advisory board member for the nonprofit Building Cybersecurity. So just leaves for me to hand over to you, Stacey. Welcome, and we're looking forward to your presentation.
Well, thank you so much, and I am thrilled to be batting at the home stretch here. So excited to be a part of FM Tech Week. I do have a consulting firm, but I am here in my advisory board role with the nonprofit on building cybersecurity, talking about a topic that is near and dear to my heart. I'm going to start with two quick polls just to get a gauge on the audience. So I'm going to ask Christy if she might be able to help with that. And so, in terms of question number one, what role do you currently hold in your organization? I'm assuming most of you are facility managers, but you also could be a managed service provider, real estate manager, CISO, or maybe something else. And then the second question is to understand whether you think your current role involves cyber safety awareness or protections. So simple yes or no, if you could click on that. Usually when I'm in an audience, it enables me to just level set on the perspectives that you all hold and not to be assumptive in that process. So thank you. Appreciate your participation on the poll there. So as we're finishing that up, I'm going to go ahead and proceed to the next. Oh, here we go. All right. So, all right. A little bit more on the other side. So, facility managers, we've got some managed services providers and real estate managers, but a lot of others. And I am thrilled to see that 86% of you think that your current role involves cyber safety awareness. So, thank you so much for being a part of this. So, we're gonna close that. And so as we are entering into a increasingly interconnected world, it also creates a digital challenge. So as you see with the image to the left and as the image to the left and all the different sensors and connected building systems that you're dealing with, this is what constitutes operational technology or OT. That's everything from industrial control systems, building management systems, fire control systems, intrusion detection, and then also cyber physical systems. And these are sensors or networks of physical objects and infrastructures, and these create the basis for smart technologies. So as we're looking at the incorporation of AI, the leverage of sensors, we have these interconnected buildings that then enable us to create a neural network. My forwarding is, there we go, of your functional areas that is then able to connect in across tracking equipment performance, looking at managed services providers who need to perhaps connect into your systems and operate remotely, your facility managers, asset managers, sustainability folks, and also those who are managing the tenant experience. So within this, it creates a neural network, if you will, of a connected environment, an ecosystem that gives you visibility. And it enables data-driven decision making to then track how you're doing in terms of your sustainability performance, or how your assets are performing, or how you might be tracking expenses and your money. However, only a few people have access to my system, right? It's what happens behind the closed doors that is often a very scary environment. These are all representatives of people who can dial in remotely, who can have access to your systems, who maybe formerly knew the password and the password hasn't changed. So, what is the problem? The problem is whether you have change in leadership, changes in technology, changes in vendors. All of this creates layers and fragmentation that then develop network gaps. So often you have multiple networks with many vendors that are all connecting. You've got increased needs for cloud-based services because of that interconnectivity and wanting to dial in remotely. You've got the fact that many organizations do not have an overarching policy to manage that connectivity. And then very few of us actually work in new facilities. So with aging infrastructure that can be anywhere from 25, 35, 45 plus years old, these building systems and networks have not been upgraded on a standard IT refresh. So you think about your iPhone, you get automatic pushes for the updates that are patches, that are address bugs, that are improved optimizations. You don't have that for your physical infrastructure. And then old gear leads to vulnerabilities and uptime issues. So often we go in and we look at band-aids to try and make something work. It adds cost, it adds risk, it creates redundancies. And so the need to approach this as a modern network management with enterprise grade monitoring, security, maintenance systems, it needs to be applied. Looking at things in terms of IT best practice needs to roll over into our physical infrastructure world. Because the difference is a lot of people see the risk on an IT attack, right? The IT involves data. OT involves people, it involves places, it involves operations. And so the implications of that, people aren't going to die with an IT attack in 99.9% of the cases. This could happen if your systems and your functionality has been attacked and degraded by bad actors. We had one client example where the CIO was absolutely certain that they had all knowledge in terms of who and what was touching their network. And we went in with a passive AI capacity, and across their 90 buildings, what they realized was there were over 1,600 service provider staff who were touching their network and over 27,000 devices, of which they were actually unaware because it was on the building management system. So there is a challenge between the communications between your IT forces and your OT or facility management forces. And we need to start encouraging the convergence and improving the communication. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. So over the past couple of years, every year now, they're doing global threat reports. And so Forescout put out theirs at the end of the year on the global threat roundup. And looking across the year, 900 million attacks originated from 213 countries. And then the top incidents were number one was in the US, number two was in Europe, and number three was in Asia, with the top three verticals that were being attacked being telecom. I don't know if people are aware of an attack, a cyber attack called Salt Typhoon. Volt Typhoon was actually on the infrastructure itself. Salt Typhoon was on the telecom. and the access that they achieved for those systems, but the ability to come through in the cyber physical arena, also financial services, certainly with government. And then the increases in many of these sectors year over year. Energy is almost doubling. We've seen that in terms of shutdowns in Spain, in Portugal, outside of Heathrow, manufacturing issues in terms of industrial based capacities, healthcare. Many are not aware that imaging equipment, because there is connectivity through wireless capacities, can also be hacked through that. So the point that's coming from the government, we also have the Office of the Director of National Intelligence that came out and was talking about state actors who are attacking our systems. And the fact that the quote underneath, we have to shift our focus to stop the event before it happens. And that is the shift that most security teams really have to undergo. So, certainly, we need to think about response and recovery, but we also need to think about prevention and mitigation. I often highlight the fact that with facility management, it is an imperative as we think about safety to consider all hazard risks. So, natural disasters, God forbid, an active shooter. But we don't necessarily have safe plans of action for a cyber physical threat. And these are the things that we need to start becoming a lot more proactive about. So I ask people what they think the total cost of global cybercrime is. And 10 years ago, it was $3 trillion. And this year, and we haven't even made it through the whole, but the projection is it's going to be more than triple that at $10.5 trillion. And that's just what we know about. There is often the case where many organizations do not want to report out when they have had a cyber attack because for brand management, because of trust issues, because of liability issues, et cetera, et cetera. Now, at least in the United States, if you're a publicly traded company and you have had a cyber breach, if it has accessed your PII or your the personal information, and it could be through credit card information, it could be through social security numbers or sensitive details, they have to report that out. And so there is an estimation that this number is far greater than this, simply because we don't know all of the incidents that are transpiring. So in terms of a single data breach, the average cost is $5 million. And that is up over 15% over the past 3 years. And the frequency, just 2 years ago, it was 13 per second on average, which is 86,400 attacks per day. So the frequency, it's not if, but when. So what does a bad day look like, right? So bad actors can attack an organization for a variety of reasons. So it could be simply for ransomware. On the dark web, they have ransomware as a service. And this is what people do in terms of they show up to work and every day they are looking for vulnerabilities and attacks. And you would be shocked and appalled to see what type of information on perhaps your devices are accessible. So through simple human error or clicking on a link or putting in a USB stick, you could get a notification like this that says your building management systems have been compromised and encrypted. They have control over elevators, cameras, cipher locks, fire suppression, lighting, gas lines, SCADA, and HVAC. What do you do? What do you do? And would you know how to respond? Or would your team know how to respond? This actually was a screenshot from one of our clients. This actually happened, obviously, 4 years ago. So, in terms of a response, do you have visibility to know the extent of the impact of the attack. In that situation where that screenshot was taken, they did not have visibility. And so they were going in and did the repairs. They thought that they had backups. They thought that they were able to have used their plan of action, but it was not sufficient. So they did not have an effective incident response plan. And what happened was they had a burnout of several of their chillers. And then because of supply chain issues, they actually ended up being shut down for 92 days before they could get up and running. So it says that it's impacted your elevators, your HVAC. Do you evacuate the building? We would say yes. You don't have certainty in terms of the safety of your systems and mechanisms, and so you will need to evacuate the building. But then who's responsible for the decision making? Is it you? Is it your boss? Is it your C-suite? To be able to know in terms of that plan of action, who is deciding what happens next? Because how do you communicate internally if your emails are down? We had one client that we were running through a scenario and they said, well, if we're attacked, then we're just going to send an email, a blanket email to all of the staff telling them what to do. And we said, well, what if all of your email has been compromised by the attack? What is your secondary method of communication? And they had none. So we need to think through in terms of all hazard. If certain aspects go down, what is your reaction? What is the secondary or tertiary path that you can take? And then what is your external communication policy? Do you need to tell the media? Do you need to tell political representation? Do you need to tell your stakeholders or your shareholders or your tenants? So who do you notify about this and when? So these are all things that ideally are defined before you hit the situation. And then who holds the risk, right? So if you have services providers where you have chosen to defer risk, what is in your contract? What if your service provider is the one who is liable for that? I don't know how many people remember back in the situation several years ago with Target, but it was an HVAC vendor who had a USB stick and had plugged it in and was unaware it had been corrupted by malware that then went from the HVAC system into the building management systems. And then because of the way the network organizational construct, it was able to get into the IT side and was able to access critical client customer credit card information. So who's liable in a situation like that? You need to understand what your contract state, and if you're the managed service provider, you need to understand the risk that you're taking on and the liability that you hold. So others hold cyber insurance or property and casualty. Usually for operations and maintenance, you get property and casualty insurance. But for either, have you read the fine print? And do you understand exclusions and gaps? There was a situation where one of our clients was making a claim after a cyber attack to their insurance provider, and they had attested through their reps and certs that everything had double verification. It did not. And because of that, a $150 million claim was denied. And that's a very expensive mistake to happen. So understand what's in the exclusions, the gaps, the fine print. So BCS, Building Cybersecurity, is collaborating with the insurance industry to establish a standard approach to cyber risk assessment. So one of our co-founders is Aon. And we're also working on a checklist. if you will. So think about when you get your home insurance. If you have an alarm system, if you have security aspects of it, if you have a special fence around your property, you will get a reduction in your premiums and incentive to be able to take a more proactive approach. We are trying to think about cybersecurity for physical assets in the same way. How can we incentivize both the insured as well as the insurers to define what mechanisms are being deemed as proactive and how to look at the ROI for that behavior? So, Building Cybersecurity developed a strategic partnership with IFMA a little over 2 years ago. And IFMA really leaned in on this and realized, look, the way the pace of play is going between connected environments, the leveraging of AI, digital platforms, these are going to be increasingly vulnerable. And so we created this partnership to help raise awareness of the emerging cyber threats. And in doing so, we are looking at webinars like this, we're looking at podcasts and articles, and we speak at various IFMA events and presentations. And then we also have offered training. So I'm going to talk in the next slide about the training that we created in partnership with IFMA Professional Development to offer a Cyber 101 course for specifically targeted for facility managers. Incentives I referenced on the insurance, looking at the ROI through not only insurance policies, but other risk mitigation programs. And then in terms of solutions, we have within our membership, we can do cyber assessments, we can do cyber commissioning, we can help deploy a monitoring capacity so you can see the types of devices like that other client with the 27,000 devices of which they were unaware, and to be able to validate and update the building protections to make it a safer environment. And then in the realm of tools, we've created a 16-step checklist. I'm going to be running through that briefly in the next slide as well. So I mentioned the training, and in the bottom right-hand corner, there's a QR code that you can scan to get to the Introduction to Building Cybersecurity for Facility Managers. It's a Cyber 101 course. It helps you with terminology, technology. What are the vulnerabilities? Why should you care? What are some actions you can take? And then we're looking at developing additional podcasts that can talk you through the 16 steps. We've also talked about a phase two, a Cyber 201, if you will, to be able to get a little bit deeper into the matter. Also, for anyone who is going to World Workplace, which I hope all of you will be there and would look forward, we're going to have a BCS booth. We'll have a panel there, but before it starts, so the actual conference starts on Wednesday. And then they've got the delegate meeting and several training courses on Tuesday. And on Monday afternoon, we are going to do a tabletop exercise. And what that's going to involve, it starts at 1 o'clock and it's called Facility Shutdown. And we're going to have an interactive environment where facility managers and others in stakeholders in this industry can participate when there is a cyber attack, and then walking you through multiple choice. What would you choose? This happens. Here's 5 choices. What do you choose? Well, if you chose this, these are the ramifications. If you chose this, here are some things that happen as a result. And so it's we've done it once with the Toronto chapter, got really great feedback. We've upped our game, and it's even more interactive, and we're bringing in some digital twin capacity. And so it should be super interesting. I think we're limiting it at, I think like 35 or 40 people. So we're going to cut it off as soon as we get to that number. But really encourage you, if you are able on Monday afternoon in Minneapolis at World Workplace, please come and join us. All right. So how do you get started like today? Today. You can scan the QR code, or you can go to www.buildingcybersecurity.org. Okay, there'll be a little questionnaire, and that will take you to a free download of these 16 steps. The 16 steps are about securing your OT and supporting your IT infrastructure. It basically gives you a guide, a step-by-step guide in terms of what are some of the major components that you need to be thinking about. So maybe you've already started down the journey, right? But across the 16 steps, you can say, okay, really good on this. We've done this, this, and this, but here are the gaps. Or you haven't started the journey and you really need a playbook to start the conversation between your IT and the facility management team to say, okay, we need to start getting about this. We need to be developing our safe plan of action, and we need to think about what are our processes moving forward. So I'm going to run through them super quick. Basically, number one, governance and policy. What is your organization's policy towards cyber safety? And what are the roles and responsibilities? Who is responsible and accountable? Number two, I talked about asset inventory. What do you have in terms of hardware and software that is touching your systems? How is it being segregated? Being thoughtful and deliberate about that. Identifying your essential functions through a risk assessment and thinking about business continuity. Also, I mentioned service provider management. Look at your contracts, whether you are the managed service provider or you are the one who is hiring them. How are you structuring, again, roles, responsibilities, liability, and processes? Thinking about access control. How many of these vendors can access remotely? And what can they get into once they access your systems? So, thinking about the physical and logical aspects of your network architecture. What is your process for backing up and restoring your systems? How often are you doing it? And making sure that that is separate and accessible. And then even physical access control. What we've seen is bad actors who are able to get into uh, mission critical environments, right, into operational rooms. And then, unfortunately, a lot of times, right there on the monitor or right there next to the system, they have the Wi-Fi and the passcode. They have the access control information. And so it's right there for visibility. I'm going to run through these really quick because I don't. So, additional things on awareness and skills training. Really need to think about change management on the culture and infrastructure management, thinking about system security verification. So, you can download this. There's the QR code. I'm going to have it up again at the end. So, here's some final thoughts. Uh, Number one, five things. Number one, cyber attack will threaten both IT and OT, risking lives, property, business disruption, revenue, and brand. Number two, a cyber incident is not a matter of if, but when. So, how do you make sure that it doesn't negatively impact your business continuity? Number three, think about cyber risk. It's either assumed, mitigated, or transferred, hopefully not ignored. Number three, insurance policies and managed services agreements must be reviewed to understand cyber related terms and exclusions. And lastly, number five, everyone should have a plan to identify, protect, detect, respond, and recover from a cyber physical attack. So with that, I hope to stay connected. We don't have time for Q&A, but if you send any either directly to me or through the IT community, we can get back to you. There's the QR code that you can download or go to www.buildingcybersecurity.org. Lucian Niemeyer is our CEO, former Assistant Secretary of Defense, incredibly knowledgeable. And so I hope that this was deemed helpful for you. And I hope that this continues your journey for cyber physical safety. Thank you so much.
Wow. What a way to end the week. You know, they say that the most dangerous risks are the ones that we don't know about. So, Stacey, thank you for bringing visibility and allowing us to focus on the cybersecurity risks that uh, impact our profession and what we can do about it. So, thank you very much. Well, it's a wrap. That is Facility Technology Week or FM Tech Week 2025. I'm Ed Buckley. It's been my pleasure to guide you through these 5 days of sessions, and it's been my absolute pleasure to feel like I've had a private training in technology by listening to all the great speakers. Appreciate everybody for coming on and taking your time out of your busy weeks to attend FM Tech Week. As all it leaves for me to do is to say thank you again to Stacey. Thank you again to our audience. Thank you very much to Christy for making sure that everything has gone extremely well, and to Ted Ritter for the vision around this. So thank you all. Have a wonderful weekend and stay safe with FM technology. Thank you all. Bye bye.
Thank you.